Do you think then that creativity can be hacked at all?
Absolutely not. Because you need those messy and uncomfortable parts. They have to exist. I mean, again, I suppose kind of to take this back a step, what do we mean when we say, can creativity be hacked? Like, are we talking about, can we find a shortcut to do creativity faster? Can we avoid the discomfort that comes with creativity? Can we generate ideas, exponentially? Can we make more ideas in a shorter amount of time? If that's what we mean by hacking creativity, I think no, because I think that discomfort is a critical part of the creative process. That's kind of how it just works. I sort of, when I'm writing, so my creativity is mainly around writing. And the way I think about it is I'm writing something and then I inevitably get to this point in the process where I've lost all faith in the essay or the article or the book or whatever it might be, and just think, that's it, this thing is, I'm screwed. Like, this is all falling apart. There's no way forward. And then somehow, and I don't even actually really know how, I move something around, I step back from it, stuff happens that I can't explain, and suddenly it works, and the thing has somehow magically come together. And the only way, what I liken it to is moving house. So whenever you move house, there will always come a point where you are sat on the floor, either in tears or very nearly in crying, looking at all of your stuff and all of your boxes and thinking, there is no way that stuff is going to fit in those boxes, also in time for the movers to come. And then somehow you've turned around, you've put a few things somewhere and done that Tetris with the packing, and it's all packed and it's done. And that always happens. And you there's no way, I've never had a moving experience in the same way that I've never had a proper creative experience where that discomfort hasn't existed. It's just kind of a fact of it. I do think there are things you can do to give yourself a better chance and improve your experience or increase the likelihood of creativity being able to happen.
Sort of engender a creative atmosphere.
Exactly. But I don't think you can shortcut your way out of the uncomfortable and messy parts of creativity.
Do you think that, I would definitely say that this is the case, that when I try to hack my way through creativity, that it actually works adversarially to the creative process as well? I'm trying to come up with something. So if I try and binaural beats and I'm going to list YouTube and episode titles is a good example of this. I need to come up with a compelling title that's going to tell people what this episode's about, and it's also going to have to be eye-catching, but it can't be too clickbaity, but it can't be whatever, right? So there's all these parameters running around. And if I was to say, right, okay, so I'm going to write the first thing that comes to mind, then I'm going to iterate on that 10 times, then I'm going to do whatever. No, just go for a walk and think about it and listen to some music or something, and you'll come back and you end up having it. So in a weird way, creativity gets hacked with it can be hacked, but it's the hacks that we think of as hacks usually are the opposite of the things that we do to get creativity. Just leave, listen to some music, go to the gym and think about whatever it is that you're doing.
And also what I would add to that is it's never the same thing. So maybe you're trying to figure out the headline for your episode or whatever you might be doing, and you went off and had a shower and it came to you in the shower. That doesn't mean that next time you're trying to come up with the episode title, if you take a shower, the answer's going to come to you in the shower. You might need to do something else. And sometimes you might have to do 20 things until you finally work it out. And sometimes that's the other part of it, that hack kind of implies that there is this blueprint, and that if I did it before, or if this thing worked for someone else, then it's going to work for me. This piece that I wrote about it, where I kind of explored this, in which I wrote about how I don't think it can be hacked. I spoke to a bunch of people for it, and I heard from this one guy who was like, yeah, I read somewhere, probably on Reddit, that if you have more blood to your head, you're more creative. So he hung off the side of his sofa so that the blood would rush to his head. And all that happened is that he got a headache. There was kind of, because it, maybe someone lay down once with their head upside down and had the idea for the next greatest book, that doesn't mean it's going to necessarily work for you. And I do think that we do have this urge to, if someone else has done this, particularly someone quote unquote successful has done something, that if we too could just replicate what they did, then we'll be golden too.
That's what everyone's trying to do, right? That's why Ali Abdaal's got 2.5 million YouTube subs. People look at his content and they go, oh, wow. If I watched his video about typing at 240 words per minute, I can type it. Maybe I will get closer toward doing that, or Pomodoro technique, or Atomic Habits, or whatever it might be, right? This is what people are doing. They're trying to model off of other successful people who have managed to get the outcomes they want from a process which they've explained, which this person's now going to begin to try and do. But with creativity, it is so infuriatingly pedestrian and counter and kind of its own animal. And yeah, the harder that you push. That being said, I'm pretty creative. If I have a bad meditation session, it's almost always because I've had a good creative session when I should have been thinking about my breath. And one of my friends, Johnny, very frequently has a notepad and pen next to where he meditates, because that's how many ideas he has when he's meditating, which obviously isn't the purpose of the meditation, but it's sort of, when it comes, I suppose. He also has, and this was a life hack that we featured a little while ago, have you seen waterproof paper and pencils?
I've heard about them. I'm pretty sure I heard about them from Ali as well.
So they're love notes, they're called, or you can get them on Amazon. And they're meant for, I think, they're meant for leaving cute messages to your other half in the shower. And it's like a little notepad, and you can tear them off and throw it away. And the pencils work. And it is pretty spectacular that this paper and this pencil writes, and then it gets wet and nothing happens. But Johnny uses that because he says that he has at least 50% of his ideas while he's showering. So he's just got that done. So, okay, so if you can't hack creativity, what are the things? Let's say that you've got a day where you need to be as creative as possible. What are the sort of things that you're going to try and do to engender that environment?
I think, again, it really varies. It kind of varies on how critical that need to be creative is. So as someone whose job relies on ideas and being creative, something that I try to separate out are the creative projects that I'm doing for money and the ones that pay my bills, and then the ones that I keep back and do for myself. And I think one of the things I do is just trying to find a bit of balance to have space to do both of those things. I mean, I will sometimes sit and try to come up with ideas, but what I tend to do is I also have a place just on my phone in the notes app where I'm constantly writing down kernels of ideas, and then I do sometimes do just development. Like I'll carve out a couple of hours and I'll go through this list. A lot of it is garbage, and just take those ideas and actually try to develop them. And I'll start by Googling the idea. Has anyone else written anything about this? Maybe poll people on Twitter, see if they've got anything interesting to say. I do a lot of reading. So as a writer, for me, the other half of the writing process is reading. I will just go down so many rabbit holes and just read stuff. Sometimes also do that on YouTube as well, and just watch a bunch of YouTube videos. I do find, for me, it is kind of, if I'm actively trying to be creative, it is quite a doing process. I will also just sit, and this actually just happens a lot more infrequently than it should, but I will just sit and try to write something. Basically, I think what's really interesting is that sometimes something will have worked, and we'll just try to keep replicating it, and it doesn't. Like we can't get there again. But yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to pinpoint exactly what I'm doing, because I only realize something has worked after I've actually had the idea, or after I've actually done something that has actually kind of has had a creative output, if that makes sense.
Definitely having a list each week is a really cool idea. So the newsletter that I write each week, I need to come up with 3 things that I've learned. And I learned tons of things, but if I didn't ever look for them, if I wasn't ever writing them down, then it would be really, really difficult. And then it means that when it comes to writing the newsletter at the end of the week, I've got 10 things to choose from that I could have as the body of it. Is this tweet and this article and this conversation I had with a friend and this story from whatever might have happened. So yeah, I think purposefully looking for little inspirations of creativity, because that's kind of how creativity is, right? Creativity isn't a big process, it's the genesis of the process. The process is the work that you do after the creativity. You know, tons of books, almost all of the sort of popular science, pop psych stuff is a core concept fleshed out into 80,000 words. So finding those little bits of inspiration, that's exactly what you're looking for. And I think spreading that across the week, just kind of grazing on little tidbits of creativity, that definitely makes it easier for me. It also means that your research period is going to be much more simple, because it's okay, I'm looking at this as opposed to looking for something and then looking at whatever it is. So I think that's good.